1. And welcome back, everybody, over here at RUNAMUCK Films. It's Garrett, and I've got my co-hard over the phone here. Go ahead.
What up, guys? Another UFC podcast coming your way.
Yep. Hopefully this works pretty well. Lincoln is now across state, and he is gonna have to do this by telephone. So hopefully everything sounds all right and works okay, and nobody breaks up. I don't want to break up with you, Lincoln.
I already broke up with you. That's why I'm gone.
Yep. I'm holding on. I'm really holding on here. So basically, we're going into UFC 247 tomorrow. This is being recorded on the preceding Friday and is probably going to be uploaded on Saturday. And really, it's an interesting card. Lincoln and I really we aren't really experienced with 2 out of the 5 cards, so we were mainly going to focus our attentions on the 3 main fights on this card.
What fights are those, Garrett?
Well, obviously, it's opening the event is going to be Derek Lewis versus Ilir Latifi, and then basically, I assume these next 2 fights are going to be great. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the gentlemen involved.
Same.
Good luck to both of them. You know, both groups of fighters. Wish them the best of luck. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, mad respect to the 4 fighters that we do not know enough information about to talk shit about.
Yeah, exactly. To pretend like we know what we're talking about.
Not the rest of them.
Yes. So then after those 2 fights, it's going to be followed by the co-main event featuring Valentina Shevchenko versus Caitlin Chukagian for the the featherweight, strawweight.
I believe it's a strawweight.
Yeah. I should definitely know that beforehand, but
Hey, it's okay. We're still new.
Yeah. We're still getting used to this. This is only our second podcast ever talking about MMA.
Yeah.
I really like the last one we did.
We made references in other podcasts, but this is the second full-on MMA podcast.
Yeah. And then following the co-main event, we are finishing with the main event of the evening, which is going to be the light heavyweight championship between John Bones Jones and Dominic the Devastator Reyes. So that's what we're
working. What a bad nickname.
Do what?
So what a bad nickname.
The Devastator?
It just doesn't flow with his name at all.
It should have been the Dominator.
I know! That's what I'm saying. Dominic the Dominator Reyes. Come on, guys.
You were so close. They were so close. So,
it's silly.
Yep, going back, and I guess we're going to go ahead and just start off with the Derek Lewis versus Latifi fight. Lincoln, right off the bat, what are your impressions going into this fight? Who are you supporting, and who do you think is going to end up being the ultimate victor, and why?
So, I got an interesting take on it, alright?
Okay.
So, Latifi, I believe, is coming off of a loss, and he's moving up from light heavyweight to heavyweight.
Yep.
I don't think he can roll with the punches of the Black Beast, you know what I'm saying?
Derek Lewis specifically?
Yeah, specifically Derek Lewis, because he's a big boy.
Yes.
And big boy hits hard.
And did you see...
Hits real hard.
Did you see
and he follows you to the ground and keeps hitting you once he's got you rocked.
Right. Did you see the weigh-ins today?
I did not catch the weigh-ins.
Derek Lewis is coming in with a pretty solid just over 10 pounds on Latifi here. Do you think that's going to make a big difference or not for Latifi to be coming up from light heavyweight and really going up against a prime heavyweight contender here?
It could, but, little statistics like that can also just be like statistics that don't actually matter too much.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is I don't think that he can Latifi he he might be a little bit quicker, and I could give him the advantage. But I think if he gets caught, he's just gonna get rocked and die.
Right. Latifi is coming into the fight with a much more broad and developed submission game than Derek Lewis.
For sure.
Do you think that if Latifi can... I mean, obviously Derek Lewis is coming in with a lot more knockout power and a lot more TKOs to his name, but Latifi definitely coming in with a lot more submissions to his name, and considering... I know there was an interview with Derek Lewis earlier today where he was talking about the gas tanks for both men, going into the fight. Do you think that Latifi going up to heavyweight from light heavyweight is going to be able to have the gas tank necessary to work a grappling strategy over Derek Lewis, who has shown in the past to struggle going long distances in fights, even though he is mastered going 3 rounds in a fight?
Of course. So it's possible that Latifi's gas tank won't have the same drive, but also to come back with your observation about his submission game, Derek Lewis has a problem with his cardio and whatnot, but most heavyweights do.
Right.
And he's what happens usually, which is very strange, is that Derek Lewis will get taken down and he'll get out wrestled, but then the second he gets back up, he usually knocks him out.
Right.
So it's possible that Latifi tries to run the wrestling game and gasses himself out at the same time as slightly gassing out Derek Lewis, but then when it comes to the stand-up, I think Derek Lewis has got him.
Right. I think...
So,
I agree that if Derek Lewis manages to actually knock out Latifi here, it is going to be very quick and it's going to be very Derek Lewis-esque. But one of the things I think we have to really consider when talking about Latifi is that despite coming up from a lower weight class, he typically has a great defense, not just in takedowns but on the feet, because he's a short, stocky guy. A lot of people are thinking that his shortness is going to be, the death of him in the heavyweight division, but it could very well end up being quite an advantage here. I mean, he's got, I think he's got 100% takedown defense. I don't think he's ever been taken down in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. But
I'm pretty sure you're correct as well.
Yeah.
I just don't see Derek Lewis pushing the takedown game, so that statistic might not come into play, but it might also. We don't know.
Right. It's really more just
a whole-out wrestling match for 3 rounds.
Right. I feel like when it comes to being able to fight Derek Lewis here, I feel like that's really Latifi's only option, is to push for that game, because if he can somehow manage to keep Derek Lewis from ever getting off the ground, if he avoids the side control, if any of those positions that Derek Lewis has mastered being able to get out from, as we've seen in plenty of past fights, because I think I agree with you. When it comes to standing, I think Derek Lewis is just going to have that overwhelming presence that Latifi may only be able to stomach for only like the first round, and I think that grappling game is going to be his main avenue to try and get to victory here.
We'll start back.
Also,
because we have to dust.
Go ahead, you're good.
okay, I'm sorry, there was some static. I couldn't tell if you were talking or not.
No.
So to bring back to the submission game of Ilir Latifi and the submission defense of Derek Lewis. In Derek Lewis's last fight, he was almost put in it was either an Americana or a Kimura. Several times he was almost in it, and then he got out and won the decision. But most of the time when Ilir Latifi goes for a submission, he gets it. Unlike some other people who try to get him, and then like Derek Lewis will wiggle out. Whenever Ilir Latifi gets one, he like sinks it in. So it's possible that could be the death of Derek Lewis. And also to bring back to the point that you made about his height, is like some heavyweights, like what's his name? Oh, it's gonna hurt my feelings if I can't remember this.
Oh yeah.
Oh no!
What? Who are you thinking of?
Who is the guy who beat Brock Lesnar for the heavyweight title?
Kane?
Yeah, Cain Velasquez.
Yeah.
Cain Velasquez, a much shorter heavyweight, actually used it to his advantage and took down a lot of the bigger guys. So it's possible that Ilir Latifi moving up to this weight class, it could be his weight class from now on.
Right. I mean, hopefully, because a lot of people were actually surprised he opted to move up to heavyweight. It's not too surprising. He's one of those guys whose weight could really go either way from light heavyweight. But I'd say a lot of people were surprised he didn't move down to middleweight. And
I could see that, but he might be one of those shorter, bulkier guys that actually has a hard time cutting weight. I don't know if you've ever talked about it or not.
Yeah.
But he could be one of those guys that's just so beefy. Just so beefy that it's hard to get down there.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case. I mean,
what did he weigh at?
What did he weigh at today?
Yeah.
He came in at 249, I think.
So yeah, it's actually like right around what Cain Velasquez was doing in the heavyweight division.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
So, and Cain also ran that wrestling game on a lot of people, and those bigger guys weren't able to keep up with his cardio.
Right. But I mean, I guess we'll just really have to see, because having cardio in the heavyweight division is like key, basically.
It's like if you have cardio in the heavyweight division, you're gonna outlast everybody.
Yeah, if you can dodge the heavy hits and outlast your opponent, you're gonna be on top.
Right. But can he dodge them big boy punches is the real question.
Exactly, because when it comes to Derek Lewis, we've seen it, so many different times where he's just been down in a fight, and if the fight were to go to decision, it wouldn't have been his fight. He would have definitely lost. We've seen time and again him just come back and completely get rid of the judges, remove that whole thing out of the equation and just knock the other guy unconscious. It's something to be marveled by when it comes to Derek Lewis. His resolve. It's something special, and it's something that you only find in prominence in the heavyweight division. And it's going to be a true test for Latifi. If he's going to be able to even come out and have that same kind of heart and have that same kind of resolve and be able to go toe to toe with a guy who's got cinder blocks for hands.
Exactly.
So, I don't know, what if you have any final thoughts about this matchup, because I was just going to go into what my final prediction was.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be one of the best fights on the card, and my prediction is if Derek Lewis doesn't knock him out or Latifi doesn't get a submission I think it has to be like a first round win, or it's going to go to a decision.
Uh-huh.
For either guy.
Okay.
That's my prediction. What you got?
I'm going to say that based on, what I've seen from Derek Lewis, so many times in the past, I'm going to have to say I'm either seeing a first round knockout, or I'm seeing sort of a closer, maybe, kind of Derek gets first round, maybe Latifi wins the first two rounds. Maybe it's one of those like classic Derek Lewis underdog moments where he's losing and then he goes into the third round, and then I think he probably gets a third round knockout. I think either way it's going to end in a knockout for Derek Lewis.
Amazing.
Yep. So moving on, we move into the co-main. Valentina Shevchenko, the Bullet, versus the blonde fighter, Caitlin Chukagian.
I got an interesting take on this, big boy.
All right, let me hear it.
So, all of the UFC fights that Chukagian has been involved in, that she's won, have been decisions.
Okay.
So, most of them just 3-round fights ending in a decision on her part. And I believe the one loss that she has was also a decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the stats right now.
I think she has 2 losses, officially.
There are... Yeah, I don't think she's lost in the UFC, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but all of the fights she's had have ended in decision as long as she's been in the UFC alumni.
Right.
So I just don't think that she's gonna pull one out on this one.
No, I definitely don't see an upset here. I don't think. I mean, Chukagian. Don't get me wrong. Very, very, very talented woman.
Very talented.
I mean, like, just honest to God, you know. I mean, she's one of those like really good people that she hosts a gym. You know, she hosts her own gym for girls, and she teaches young women and young ladies martial arts, MMA. I mean, it's really fantastic. You know what she does, you know, for her community, and I think she's married to another MMA fighter. But I mean, she's just an all around great athlete, great person. But I just don't see her.
It's very wholesome.
Yeah, it's just one of those, man. You know, I hope the best for her. But when it comes to Shevchenko, man, you're dealing with a completely different animal.
She's Kuchagin has a very, very rounded, very, very complete martial artist technique and style to how she does things, but she just doesn't have the knockout power, I don't think.
No, because I mean, I know she, you know, she's in the gym, you know, she's working on her kickboxing and whatnot, and she also, you know, she attends the it's the Renzo Gracie Academy in New York.
Yeah.
You know, she goes there. You know, I think she's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think she's reached black belt status yet.
She's getting there.
Yeah, but brown belt. You know, that's impressive in and of itself to even get that far. But and when I see her striking, I honestly think the best thing for her going into the fight is that she has a very interesting head movement. Combined with very interesting footwork. You know, she always seems to be just out of reach of her opponents. You know, she always seems to be right where she needs to be to land like a very significant strike, and she's, you know, just out of reach of maybe that, you know, that spin kick, maybe just out of reach of that counter punch. I mean, she's very, very quick in terms of, you know, her handwork, very quick in terms of her ability to dodge. Excuse me. Very, very quick in her ability to be able to, I guess, I'm trying to think of the word here, I guess outdo her opponent, for lack of a better phrase. But one of the things I look at when I look at Valentina Shevchenko in retaliation of Chukagian is that you're right, Chukagian has a lot of decisions. She doesn't have a lot of finishing power. Shevchenko, on the other hand, is an even more well-rounded fighter. I mean, she's got enough KO victories, she's got enough submission victories, and she's got enough decision victories. She's shown the ability to be able to go 5 rounds. She's shown the ability to be able to kick off her opponent's head. She's shown the ability to get rear naked chokes, arm bars. I mean, she's phenomenal.
And she's got that ballerina footwork, dog.
Exactly. I mean, that's another thing. You know, going back to the feet, Chukagian, while I think she is highly, highly exceptional on the feet, you know, I mean, obviously could kick my ass. like I mean, she's very, very god tier. She's number 1 contender for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. But when it comes to Shevchenko, dude, you're like you said, that ballerina footwork, it really comes into play. I mean, you know what's crazy? This is pretty funny. To sidetrack myself for a second, did you hear about those like funny like conspiracy theories about Valentina Shevchenko?
That she's like a Russian, or that she's like some kind of sleeper agent.
Yeah, like a foreign asset or something.
She said in one of the interviews, "I'm not a spy." Yeah,
it's
if
funny.
Someone would just like they look at her and they say like "red book" and she turns into like a sleeper agent. Yeah,
it's. I mean, like those rumors, obviously completely ridiculous, but fun to poke fun at. While that's the case,
it could be true.
I mean, we'll never know for sure, but I mean, like, obviously, from this standpoint, we have to assume, you know, they're bogus. But that being said, just the fact that those rumors are even being spread about her, those theories being, you know,
the reason why they're being spread
is because she's so skillful.
So deadly.
She's so deadly. She's so accurate. Her cardio is incredible. She's such a gifted fighter that I don't know if I necessarily see too many ways Chookagian can win this. Valentina is so complete that I have a hard time imagining a scenario that isn't, completely unexplainable, like a fluke knockout or something. Like
No knockouts or a fluke.
or a nasty cut that leads to a doctor stoppage. Like I just don't know what it is that Caitlin can do here. I mean, do you have any weigh-ins on that?
If maybe it goes to decision and they see it in Kochigin's favor, like it's possible that it just like Valentina just doesn't land anything for 5 rounds. Like it's possible that just one person's gonna out-footwork the other, but I really don't see it going any other way either. But I would love if we were just completely wrong right now.
Oh yeah, totally.
It would be great for us to literally get our foot in our mouth over this like prediction.
Hey man, that's what MMA is all about, if we're being honest.
Exactly.
I'm all down for it, to be truthful. Like I don't get me wrong, I love a good upset. Like an upset victory is this kind of stuff I live to see.
Exactly, it's part of the sport.
But and obviously,
do you know how great Shevchenkov is?
How?
Do you know who the only person to beat her in the UFC is?
Who?
Amanda Nunes twice.
Just in the UFC?
Just in the UFC. She has one other loss on the record, but in the UFC alone, it's only Amanda Nunes that she's fought twice.
Jeez.
And Amanda Nunes being the #1 pound-for-pound woman fighter ever.
Yeah, it's that's a little hard to contend with.
It's a little bit hard to contend with, but at the same time, if like you fight that kind of caliber of a fighter twice, and you've just been knocking people out and winning decisions afterwards, after she moved down a weight class, I think that's just her weight class.
Yeah. So my predictions, like final thoughts. What do you got?
I think it's going to be a 3rd round knockout by Shevchenkov.
3rd round knockout. Okay, nice. Hey, I could see it, happening in a multitude of different ways for Shevchenkov. I mean, she's got the ground game, she's got the striking game, she's super super deadly. I could definitely see a TKO victory coming by way also in the 3rd round. I do feel like Chookagian is going to put up enough of a great fight to make it that far. But all in all, dude, I mean, most likely I'm thinking of a probably unanimous to split decision victory for Shevchenkov.
Gotcha. I can see you going that way too.
Yeah, because I mean, like Chookagian she's skilled enough to make it to where you might not be able to hit her, you might not be able to completely take her down or work, the kind of ground game you want. But I also feel like in turn she's not going to have much to dish out.
Fair. I like your take.
So here we go.
Is it time?
It is. Moving on to the 3rd and final fight we're covering here tonight, and that is the light heavyweight championship main event featuring John Jones and Dominic Reyes. Oh boy. Here we go. What do you got for me?
I got John Jones is going to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
John Jones is going to finger poke and oblique kick his way to victory yet again to break GSP's record for the most title wins, I mean.
Yeah, like he's got not only title wins, but he's also probably going to break GSP's. I think it's GSP's record for most consecutive wins for like 17.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so now he's going into his 18th. So if he wins, he'll break like 3 records or something.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just John Jones mania.
Yeah.
Now, but do I want to see Dominic Reyes knock him out in a crazy way in the 1st round? Of course.
Of
You get
course.
tired of seeing Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you want to see the Chiefs win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty much. Dude, okay. Here's what here's what I really want to like ask you, because I've been hearing this, for a while now. I've been hearing this a lot today, and I need to just ask you. I need to come out and I need to ask it.
Alright, I'm listening.
Do you agree, I should say, with this weird consensus? I don't mean to say weird yet, but this consensus that Dominic Reyes is the most fearsome fighter John Jones has faced since Daniel Cormier.
Since?
Like, yes. Like, he is, without a doubt, probably the most dynamic and fearsome fighter for John Jones, second to Daniel Cormier. Or just in general. If I've heard it said, that broadly. What's your take?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I always thought that Alexander was the best, like the
Gustafson.
guy who could beat John Jones.
Yeah.
Because like their first fight, he got kind of washed out for the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
Whenever John Jones and Gustafson fought the first time. Then the second time, obviously, it went John Jones' way a lot faster. But I always thought that John lost that fight.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, the first fight at least, because I thought that Gustafson had at least 3 rounds on him.
It was very close. I'd have to watch it again, but it was extremely close.
That was always my take on that fight. But then obviously he shut my mouth in the second fight.
Yeah. Now,
But I do think that Dominic's size and his technique and his style are something that John Jones needs to worry about. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's the biggest threat to John Jones.
right? I've heard. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to his style, Dominic himself describes himself as dynamic, and I don't necessarily agree with it. Because that's the opinion John Jones has also taken. He doesn't believe, exactly what Dominic is saying. He doesn't believe that he's actually as dynamic as he believes himself to be. And I don't either. I think that's because when I look at Dominic Reyes, I don't see something that's necessarily dynamic in the sense of it's thought out or it's strategical. I see it more as his fighting style seems more instinctual rather than anything else, just because of the fact that he kicks and he punches and he does a really good job, and I think a lot of it is just natural for him, because he is such a well-rounded athlete that fighting, he's good at it naturally, and a lot of the stuff that he can do he picks up on maybe a little quickly. I mean, he's undefeated. He's 12-0, which is very, very impressive, to even go that far. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he doesn't put that much thought into what it is he's doing. It's more just reaction. You know what I'm saying? And then strength.
It's a very healthy and good trait to have as a fighter, because he does see openings, like in his last fight.
Chris Weidman.
Chris Weidman. Thank you. He did see the opening that he was backing up, stood his ground, and then switched on him and got the knockdown and then the subsequent finish. And that was a very instinctual, he's putting pressure on me, I'm going to make it seem like I'm falling for his pressure and then turn it on him. Right. Which is a very instinctual, he saw the opening, he went for it, and he got it. So something like that could happen in this fight. I really have high hopes for this fight. It could be a wash. But I do like the idea of somebody who's more instinctual and not as methodic as John Jones, because that could be the way that they look at the fight could be the difference in in the fight versus other people like Daniel Cormier or Gustafsson.
Right, and we talked about this just the other day, but I had said to you that when it comes to John Jones and whoever he's fighting, with Dominic Reyes specifically, here's how I see it working. Dominic Reyes, he could go into the fight maybe with a strategy, and then he can adapt easily on the fly because of his fighting style, his ability to just roll with the punches and quickly see openings and react in time, and he's very, very quick and he's very, very strong. But when it comes to John Jones, you know, he's got more than double the professional fighting experience. He's got more championship defenses than Dominic has professional fights.
Which, yeah, it's a staggering statistic when you look at it.
And I think about that, and I think to myself, okay, John Jones, no matter what Dominic Reyes could likely throw at him, he is not only a great adapter in and of his own right. Like when he went into, I think it was I want to say the Thiago Santos fight, where he went into it thinking Santos was going to do one thing, and then he ended up having to, you know, work through it in the third round and really pull himself together and come out with a decision victory there.
Of course. And
we described it as one of those things where it's like circular thinking. It's like circular reasoning. You know, you say to yourself, John Jones, he does this one thing. You know, he might throw kicks a certain way, and he might try to corner you a certain way with those, you know, said kicks. And then you could say, well, Dominic Reyes is someone who's so instinctual and he adapts on the fly so quickly that it's likely that strategy Jones is trying to implement isn't going to work. And so Reyes is doing something in adverse to that. But then you go back to the point that John Jones is pretty much the greatest fighter of all time. And then you end up right back with John Jones is just going to do this one thing in counter to Reyes' counter and be right back in the winning position.
But maybe Reyes is countering the counter that's countering.
It could be so. It's so hard to come up with an argument for Reyes because you always just come back to the point that John Jones is phenomenal.
They are.
He is. I mean, like just the fact that he's even come close, the fact that he's currently tied with Georges St-Pierre, already deemed the greatest fighter of all time, is staggering. It's extremely it's awe-inspiring to an extent.
It is, and what's crazy is that this could be if it does go Dominic Reyes' way, it could just be like a redo, or not a redo, but like history repeating itself whenever John Jones fought Shogun. Who everybody was saying that Shogun had double the experience, double the championship fights, etc.
Yeah.
And then John Jones, being the youngest champion ever, just coming back and just annihilating that dude.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Reyes' theory that he's part of a new breed of fighters, I don't necessarily know that I agree with, just because, I mean, they're not that far apart in age. Jones is only 2 years older. I don't necessarily see this as a fight of old versus new. So,
yeah, I was saying more about the experience.
Oh, yeah.
Rather than the age.
Well, I mean, when it comes to their experience, I think you're looking at someone who, with Jones, is just become fine-tuned wine over time.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you've got someone like Reyes, who is he's really up and coming right now, and it's an interesting collide here. It's someone who, I mean, I love, you know, how Dominic Reyes is going into this fight, you know, despite whatever he's saying, you know, like, oh, I'm the most dynamic fighter. John Jones has never fought anybody like me. I'm such a great athlete. despite any of those things that I don't necessarily agree with, I do like his attitude. I really like his confidence.
Yeah, you've got to have that confidence coming into a fight like this. If you don't, then you're definitely going to lose.
Because all the things that we just talked about how John Jones is the greatest fighter and all the statistics that go with that, that's like I assure you, Dominic Reyes is 100% aware of all this stuff.
Yeah, but he's not going to let himself think about it.
Exactly. So he's definitely. I love how he's going into the fight. I totally respect that. And I really admire that. And I hope if I'm ever in a similar position as Dominic Reyes, whatever walk of life, that happens to be at, like, I hope I can take such a positive and focused and affirmative attitude that he has. But really, that's probably about all he's got. Think about this. So we're talking about striking the entire time. Let's really be honest. If John Jones wanted to stand up and strike with this guy, trade hands with this guy, he could probably do it. But if he wanted to finish the fight and really, work Dominic Reyes, all he'd have to do,
solidify himself.
All he'd have to do is just take him down and then just work the ground game, because Dominic Reyes, just based on what I've seen, I mean his camp, I don't know what it's been like for this fight. I don't know what exactly he's been working on for this fight, but just based on what I've seen from him in the past, he's gotten submission victories, yes, but his ground game is nothing like John Jones's.
They're both have wrestling credentials behind them in high school and in college and whatnot. But John Jones is definitely the better wrestler.
Yes. I mean, his submission victories, unlike... I'm not going to sit here and say that a rear naked choke is not a great submission, but it's definitely, beginner, intermediate level submissions. Like
anybody who's watched UFC has done that, has practiced that at least once.
Exactly. And with Dominic Reyes... I just don't know if he necessarily has the coordination and the technique. I don't know if it's sharp enough to go head to head with someone like Jones. I mean, his takedown defense is actually pretty decent. He was able to stuff Chris Weidman. I mean, Chris Weidman took a pretty good shot and takedown on him in that fight. I forget if it was the first or the second round, because it didn't go that long. It wasn't that long of a fight, right?
I believe it was just a one-round fight.
Okay, so then it must have been early in the round. Chris Weidman gets a takedown, and Dominic Reyes actually had a pretty good scramble, and he got out of it. And then following that, I think Chris Weidman also went in for another shot, and Dominic Reyes wasn't having it the second time. So Dominic Reyes has shown good takedown defense. But again,
his wrestling offense might be not as fine-tuned as Johnny Bones.
Well, I was also going to say his takedown defense, despite how good it may be, might still not be enough, because John Jones was able to take down Daniel Cormier, the silver medalist. Do what?
So it had never been taken down, and it has since not been taken down.
Yeah, and he was taken down twice. So that's just insane to me. I mean, every fighter is different, but if we're going by style and we're talking wrestling and we're talking defense, you might be in trouble, Reyes, is all I want to say.
What are your predictions, sir?
I got to be honest, man. You know what my predictions are going to be.
I know. I just want to hear you say it.
Depending on how John Jones really feels going into this fight, you know how he has been lately with the whole going the full 5 rounds and whatnot. Unless he decides to pull out a crazy submission on Dominic Reyes in the 3rd round or 4th round, I see him maybe picking up a TKO. Shit, I'll go crazy and I'll say the 1st round. But who knows? This could be another classic 5-round split decision.
For sure.
Yeah. What about you?
So, I see this is John Jones's night to make history. I see it as a 2nd round TKO via ground and pound. So I think the first round is going to be a lot of feeling each other out, maybe some big blows here and there. Second round towards the end, John Jones is going to take him down and just let him have it on the ground.
Right. Hey, man.
And that's just how I see it going.
That sounds great to me, honestly. So, do you have other final thoughts? Anything else lingering on you that you just need to get off your chest?
Oh, yeah, so if Dominic Reyes wins, what's going to happen?
Okay, so I don't want to say it on the podcast exactly what's going to happen, because we've actually not cursed a lot in this podcast, so we can save this. We can make this one for everybody. But
there's just a bet.
There is a bet on the line. There's something on the line, and it's one of those things where we made the bet specifically because it's like one of those like superstitious things. Like, if Dominic Reyes wins, I have to do something, and the only reason I would agree to it is because it would mean that John Jones has a greater chance of losing. So that's just where I'm at with it. I'm not gonna say what it is, because if if it turns out to be true, nobody has to know what happened.
Exactly.
So yeah.
But I think it's gonna be a wonderful card. I think all of the fights are gonna shape up to be just great, awesome fights. I think that if this night goes the way I think it's gonna go down in history. It's gonna be one of the pay-per-views that everybody talks about in a few years. But yeah, what you got?
Dude, I mean, if John Jones wins again, I think it's going to be one of those sweep under the rug kind of things, because, I mean, if we're being all honest, Dominic Reyes was more than anything a bit of a tune-up fight for Jones, because yes, he's in the top 5, yes, he's ranked number 4 in the rankings, but let's be honest, the light heavyweights that we know of are just not that great in the division right now. I mean, obviously you've got Gustafsson, but he's slipping in the rankings. You've got Tashiri, but he's still, they're all top 10. I'm talking about all these top 10 guys. These are all still great athletes, but I mean, if Jan Blachowicz and Corey Anderson, are the next 2 guys in line after Reyes, then you really know that the light heavyweight division has kind of been struggling in terms of competition for Jones. So if Jones wins, then it's basically going to be one of those moments where it's like, well, yeah, we all expected that to happen. That's kind of what we were,
It's a Tom Brady situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we already kind of knew it was going to go down. I mean, that's why everybody's so caught up on Jones moving into heavyweight and talking about other future opponents and talking about Israel.
Talking about Izzy.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, talking about Adesanya all the time. So you know that John Jones is focused on this fight, but you also know that this was just meant to be another notch in the belt for Jones, because the top 3 contenders, really the best of the light heavyweight division, are just not present right now. They're just not in the game right now. They're all coming off of losses from John Jones. DC obviously is taken into the heavyweight division. He lost his championship to Stipe, and a lot of those guys just aren't want to go. Honestly, a lot of the light heavyweights don't even want to be in light heavyweight division anymore, because Jones has already beaten them. There's nobody left. There's nobody left. That's why Reyes is here, honestly. If we're being 100% honest, no disrespect to Reyes as a fighter, but he's just not in the same league as John Jones and some of those other guys. You know what? That's what I wanted to say. I almost ended this podcast without getting this off my chest, but I had to say this. When you hear people like Joe Rogan, and you hear people like I want to say Bisping, all these guys that say that Dominic Reyes is just this great guy, he's this great athlete, and he's one of the best that John Jones is ever going to face in his entire life. Guys, are you serious? Like, this is the same stuff people were saying about Tashiri back when he fought John Jones. This is the stuff people were saying about Rashad Evans. This is the stuff people were saying about Shogun Hua. Like, And obviously Shogun's before he became champion. You know what? Better yet, we're talking about Vitor Belfort. You know what I'm getting at here? Like, the people that we've been saying back in the day were going to be the ones that were going to be the toughest fights for John Jones. He's beaten them. And now we're talking about people like Dominic Reyes, who, if I'm being 100% honest, flat out, like I said, no disrespect to him as a fighter, is not on the same level as some of those guys I just listed off.
Completely agree.
So, I'm just putting it out there for you guys that if we're being honest, Dominic Reyes is not supposed to win this Saturday. That being said,
hope for it.
Yes, that being said, we hope for it because John Jones. So, yeah, that's all I had to say. That was like, I'm glad I remembered that right there at the tail end. So, anything else for you?
I hope it's the night of upset.
Yeah, that would be crazy because it's one of those funny cards where we're going into it just like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like John Jones, Shevchenko, and Lewis are all gonna win their fights. When really anything could happen.
Which is crazy because that's exactly what we thought for the one Rio card when it was like Anderson and Jose Aldo and Rose Namajunas.
Oh god, yeah, that was
and all three of them lost.
That was like the harshest night of my life getting into MMA there.
So sad.
That was like the first MMA card I think I was watching live with you.
Yeah, and it was just
nuts.
like, I was just like, yeah, they're gonna win, and then they all got wrecked.
That was crazy. But yeah, so I think that's all we got for you guys tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed this little RUNAMUCK podcast we got here for UFC 247 going up Saturday, February 8th. Lincoln, anything else?
Live long and prosper, guys.
There you go. See you guys later.